Alright guys, next chapter. Thanks for bearing with me. It has been a second. Chapter 17. The Loose Siege. I figured... Is this where we are? Okay, yes, this is. Chapter 17. The Loose Siege. I think I figured out what a loose siege is, Nolan tells me when he walks me home from school a few days later. Pine needles fall onto my head from the Douglas firs above us. I thought evergreens didn't shed their leaves in the fall, I complained, brushing the needles from my hair. Missed one, Nolan says. Before he can get close enough to take it out for me, I flip my hair over and jump up and down. What else are you hiding in there? He laughs. It's not funny. My hair is so poofy that I could probably use it to smell contraband. I pull it into a messy knot at the nape of my neck. Anyway, what were you saying? You figured out what a what is? A loose siege, he answers. Remember before we left his office, Professor Jones said it? All I remember is gibberish, I answer honestly. I know it sounded like that, but I saw the word in a book he gave me. How did you know how to spell it? Nolan reaches into his backpack and pulls up the book. It looks even more enormous than it did in the back of his car, bound in wrinkled brown leather and so thick that Nolan has to use both hands to hold it. You've been carrying it around with you all this time? It must weigh a zillion pounds. He nods. I'm reading it every chance I get. It doesn't always make sense. Parts of it seem to be written in some kind of code, and parts aren't even in English, but I think I'm finally getting something out of it. He opens to a page he marked with a bookmark. There, he says, pointing to a word in the center of it. I take the book. The paper is yellowed and thin, as translucent as wax paper. The font is so tiny I have to squint to read the word. Lucich. Lewisich? I say, trying to ignore the butterflies in my stomach. Who knew that just seeing a word printed on paper could provoke such a physical response? How do you know that's the same word he said? It was the only word in the book that was close to the one the professor said to us. He didn't say it to us, I think, but do not say, remembering the way he stared at me as he spoke. He said it to me. You read the whole book already? Nolan shrugs like it's no big deal to be able to read a 1,000-page tome in a matter of days. Suddenly, a big, fat raindrop falls from the sky, landing right in the center of Nolan's new word. Quickly, Nolan stuffs the book back into his bag. Let's make a run for it, he says. I don't want to risk the book getting wet. He breaks into a sprint, reaching for my hand as he does so. My fingers wrap around his automatically, as though, unbeknownst to me, all this time they'd just been waiting for a boy's hand to hold. At the same time, my stomach is doing somersaults, high kicks, backflips, whatever a stomach does that makes it feel like it's trying to leap out of its rightful place in your belly and come flying out of your mouth. So I slide my hand out of Nolan's grasp, put my head down, and sprint. By the time we get to my house, I'm panting the way Oscar does when it's 90 degrees outside. Not that I can even remember what those kind of temperatures feel like. My hair is soaked, but for once, it's not due entirely to the rain. I'm actually sweating for what feels like the first time since we moved here. Not a runner, huh? Nolan laughs as I open the door for us. I lead the way into the kitchen, slip off my backpack, and collapse into a chair at the table. Nolan grins, getting us drinks out of the fridge as though this is his house and I'm his guest. Or at least with the same familiarity Ashley used to navigate our kitchen back in Austin, which is kind of nice. When I finally catch my breath, I say, okay, so tell me what you think a loose siege is exactly? Nolan plops down in the chair beside me and retrieves the book from his bag. I wonder how old it is. It's funny to think a book like that alongside Nolan's chemistry textbook and math homework. Just another assignment, more research. Except instead of an A from the teacher, if we do well, we'll keep my mother from hurting herself again. Everything I'm about to say is going to sound crazy, he warns as he hugs the book to his chest. I'm not sure how much crazier things can get, I say sadly. From what I can tell, and like I said, this book isn't the easiest thing in the world to decipher, Lucich are some kind of paranormal guardians. They are well suited to their task because they can be around the paranormal and yet be perfectly safe. They don't have to worry about being possessed, that kind of thing. If only my mom were so lucky, I say wistfully. It's not exactly your mom that I have in mind, Nolan mumbles. What? I don't want to get ahead of myself, he says quickly, setting the book down on the kitchen table and flipping through its thin pages. He pulls his wire-rimmed glasses from his pocket and puts them on. According to this, Lucich have been around for centuries and live long lives. He reads aloud from the book. Because they can sense older spirits, Lucich are commonly drawn backwards. He looks up. I think that means they like old-fashioned stuff. You know, antiques, cemeteries, stories about the way the world used to be, that kind of thing. Sound like my kind of people, I quip, taking a sip of water. So you're saying we need to find a Lucich to perform an exorcism or something? Nolan shakes his head. Not exactly. Why not? It sounds like a Lucich is exactly what we need right now. Yeah, Nolan agrees. It does. I just don't think we need to find one exactly. Why not? You have a loose each hiding in your pocket or something? I reach for his backpack and pretend to rifle through it like I think I might find a loose each inside. I guess I picked a bad time to make a joke because Nolan doesn't even give me a sympathy laugh. No, Nolan says slowly. I take another sip of water. I'm saying I think you're a loose each. Water literally shoots up my nose and I spit it all over the table in front of me. Nolan hunches over the book to protect it from the spray. I told you it was going to sound crazy, he says. I shake my head, pretending not to remember the way Professor Jones looked at me when he said the word. Okay, but there's crazy, and then there's crazy. What makes you think that you're not a loose each? Nolan leans back and folds his arms across his chest. I don't even know where to begin. Are you kidding? We don't even know if a loose each actually exists outside of the ramblings of a possibly senile old man. And in this book, it says here that loose each look like humans and live among humans. They just have certain, Nolan struggles to find the right word, abilities, he decides finally, that make them not quite human. Just because something is in a book doesn't make it true. With effort, I pick the book off the table. It's about 1,000,000 years old. Okay, not that old, but perhaps older than even a first edition of Pride and Prejudice. I flip through it, trying to decipher what's so powerful about these pages that could convince Nolan and that I'm something less than human. Or maybe something more. There's no copyright page, no publisher, no Library of Congress description like there is on a real book. From what I can tell, it doesn't even have a title or an author. Every book has an author. Maybe this one just didn't want anyone to know who he was. I put the book down, my hands trembling so much that I practically drop it, and it lands on the table with a loud smack. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that loose each are real. I can't possibly be one. You said it yourself. Loose each can be around the paranormal and be perfectly safe. I'm not safe. I'm scared all the time. I feel so creepy everywhere I go. Exactly! Nolan practically shouts. Exactly what? You said you felt weird for months now, cold and strange everywhere you go. So what do you mean? I ask, though I'm not entirely sure I want to hear his answer. The dogs were barking clearly. Pongo! I'm trying to record, sir! Hey! I think that creepy feeling is you perceiving the spirits around you. I don't feel it. Your mom doesn't feel it. Only you. You're capable of perceiving something that the rest of us can't, even though I believe in ghosts just like you and can see all the evidence of your haunted house just like you can. I shake my head so hard that my neck hurts. And you said yourself, you're playing with her. Maybe a normal person wouldn't be able to interact with ghosts like that. I wasn't trying to interact with her. It just seemed like what she wanted. Okay, but how many normal people would be concerned with or know what a ghost wanted? Nolan counters. And you love old stuff. My jacket, all those vintage clothes. What? So having a non-traditional sense of style makes me into some kind of paranormal superhero? I say incredulously, as though just 30 seconds ago I wasn't imagining that Lucy would dress like I do. There's just one thing I can't figure out, he adds slowly. The book says that being a Luciche is hereditary, so your mom should be one too, but she's totally been affected by the ghost or spirit or demon or whatever's in this house with you. Nolan leans over his book once more, poring over the pages like he believes that if he just looks hard enough, the answer will appear. Everything that happens next feels like it's going in slow motion, all except for my heart, which is racing. I push my chair out from under the table and slowly stand. Nolan doesn't look up. He's reading every bit as intently as I read Jane Austen. Slowly, like I'm afraid I might trip and fall, I begin to pace the room. Oscar and Lex follow me, questioning looks on their faces, like even they know that something is wrong. Softly, I say, I'm adopted. What? Nolan asks, still not looking up from his book. I'm adopted. I repeat louder and start pacing at a normal speed. Now Nolan does look up. That doesn't mean I'm a whatever you call it. I mean, plenty of people in the world are adopted. It doesn't mean anything. You're right, he nods. But those tons of people aren't in the situation you're in. Tell me more about those things. Luciche, Nolan corrects. Whatever, I shrug. I know how to pronounce it, I just don't want to. I continue pacing as Nolan speaks. In ancient times, Luciche were raised in insular communities, training from childhood to protect humans from the dark side of the paranormal world. What does that mean? The dark side of the paranormal world? A cold breeze blows through the kitchen despite the closed windows. I shiver, but I keep pacing. This is where it gets tricky. This is where it gets tricky? I groan. It hasn't exactly been a piece of cake so far. The book says that there are two sides of the paranormal, like two sides of a coin, or a magnet, I mumble, but I don't think he hears me. The paranormal world is made up of spirits who hang around after they die, waiting to be ushered into the beyond. Before I can ask the most obvious next question, Nolan says, the book doesn't say anything about what the beyond is. He continues, the light side includes fairly harmless and even helpful ghosts and spirits. Few spirits are truly harmless, I recite, recalling the professor's warning. Well, maybe not, but this says that most people who die are pretty anxious to move on. It doesn't feel right to stay behind, but every so often a spirit will refuse to move on, and remaining here changes them, makes them turn dark. They're so desperate to cling to life that they begin messing with the living, like poltergeists who can take hold of human bodies, like that kind of thing. Over the centuries, in addition to helping the willing spirits move on, Luciche have been protecting humans by forcing dark spirits, the ones who linger too long, or become demons, to the other side. I stopped pacing. So Luciche are kind of like guardian angels for the entire human race? Ow. Definitely not me, I think. I'm too much of a wimp to be anyone's guardian angel. Kind of, Nolan nods. They even exorcise spirits who refuse to be moved on, who wreak havoc on humans' lives. The word Luciche means light bringer in Celtic. Celtic, I echo. Old Irish, Nolan explains, though I think the word Luciche precedes it. How can a word be older than a language? If the word was spoken in an even older language first, Nolan supplies, like the answer is obvious. Anyway, Luciche send good spirits to the light and shed light where the spirits are dark. Supposedly, they bring a sort of light and joy wherever they go. Nolan looks at me without blinking until I blush. Is he trying to tell me he feels some kind of light and joy when he's around me? I don't exactly feel full of light and joy these days. I know it sounds crazy, Nolan says. I know, but you've got to admit there's a lot of evidence here. Like I said, the word literally means lightbringer. So? I fold my arms across my chest as though that will somehow slow my speeding heartbeat. So, he says, and I swear I think he's blushing. Your name is Sunshine. That's just a name. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like my mom had ever heard of whatchamacallits when she named me. Nolan doesn't know the story of the first time my mother held me. With you in my arms, little girl, it felt like I was in the state of perpetual sunshine. I closed my eyes. More than once, I'd joke that maybe she felt sunshine for the first time she held me because she was living in Texas and it was August and about 1,000,000 degrees outside. But that particular joke never made her laugh. She always remained serious. It had nothing to do with the weather, she'd always insist. I think it was the closest my cynical scientific mother ever came to believing in magic. Now Nolan is saying that maybe it was magic, or whatever Luciche call their powers. Does that mean that when my mother picked me up, that warm, sunshiny feeling she experienced wasn't the joy of a new mother, wasn't just her maternal instinct kicking in like it had for millions of mothers before her? Instead, she felt the way she did because I wasn't entirely human? I shudder. Had some other person held me first, maybe they'd have taken me home instead. Maybe I'd be someone else's sunshine. Is this the reason why my mom never needed anyone else, rarely dated, never got serious? Because she had me and my light, whatever that means, so she didn't feel like she needed anything else. Was it some kind of illusion I'd unknowingly cast? A trick I'd unintentionally played? I squeezed my eyes shut even tighter. Maybe Mom wouldn't have wanted me if I'd been normal. Maybe picking me up wouldn't have felt any different from picking up the dozens of infants she'd probably already held that day. I shake my head. No, I am my mother's daughter. I wrinkle my nose like she does and have her same ridiculous sense of humor. Luciche or not, and probably not. I mean, Nolan's evidence is thin at best. She and I were meant to be together, like she always said. And I love her so much that I'm not about to let this ghost or demon or poltergeist or dark spirit or whatever it is in this house hurt her. I open my eyes and walk across the kitchen and sink into the chair beside Nolan. Tell me more, I say softly. He leans over the book and begins reading. Should the Luciche fail in their cause, the dark creatures would destroy humanity. Well, that's a relief, I say, though it feels like I'm choking. I was worried it was going to be something serious. All right, that's the end of chapter 17. Thanks for watching.